All right, I've had a lot of people ask me about getting Voicemeeter set up, especially using Voicemeeter in a combination with OBS, either for classes or just for streaming purposes. So I thought I'd go through the setup from start to finish. Now, obviously, I'm already using it on this computer, the one that I'm recording on. So I've decided to put Windows on my MacBook, and I'm going to do it all from scratch and record the whole process, including all of the tips and tricks that I think are useful for installing and using Voicemeeter properly with OBS. First, let's go to the OBS website at obsproject.com. You'll find the link written on the screen, hopefully. Click on your operating system and download the current version. The current version is 25.08. Coming soon will be version 26, including the virtual camera. So what I'm going to do is install the release candidate 2 and show you what version 26 will look like. We're going to need two pieces of software from vb-audio.com. The first will be the virtual audio cable. The second piece of software will be Voicemeeter Banana. Personally, I use Voicemeeter Potato, which includes 5 hardware inputs as well as 3 virtual inputs and outputs. There are also other features which you might find helpful. Now, Voicemeeter Banana is free, but if you are going to install the software and use the software, I do recommend donating to the creator. It does support future development of the software. But if you're going to donate, I do recommend getting Voicemeeter Potato. Both Voicemeeter Banana and Voicemeeter Potato have a minimum donation of $10. The only difference is that Voicemeeter Potato will give you a license code to let you use the software. Voicemeeter Potato also has a lot more features, extra hardware inputs, and one more virtual input, which we'll talk about later. For today, I'll show you how to get Voicemeeter Banana working, which is completely free. When you're ready to start, you'll have 3 files. The first thing we're going to do is install OBS Studio. Follow the prompts on the screen. And when you're finished, we're not going to open up OBS Studio yet, so you can uncheck the box and click Finished. Next thing we need to do is install the virtual audio cable. This is the zip file that we just downloaded. Right-click, go to Extract All, click Extract, and a new folder will pop up. Find the file called VB Cable Setup x64, right-click on it, and choose Run as Administrator. And then Install Driver. This will bring up the prompt asking you if you want to install this software. Click Always Trust the Software from Vincent Burrell and install. Now that we've finished installing the virtual audio cable, let's install Voicemeeter Banana. Right-click on the Voicemeeter Pro Setup.exe file and again choose Run as Administrator. Again, just click the Install button. After you finish installing, it's time to reboot your system. Now that we've rebooted, let's open up Voicemeeter Banana. Now, please be careful. On your start menu, you should see Voicemeeter and Voicemeeter Banana both appear as an option. Choose Voicemeeter Banana. This will open up the software, and as you can see, the hardware out right now is flashing red. So the first thing we need to do is choose what our main audio device will be. Now, you should choose your main speakers, and since I'm using the MacBook here, what I'm going to choose is speakers. Now it's ready to use. I also recommend always using Voicemeeter to manage your audio, not just while you're streaming, but the rest of the time as well. If you set it up correctly, you shouldn't care that it's running. To do this, go to Menu and choose Run at Startup. This will automatically start it every time you run. Now, just to make things simple, let's go through and we're going to uncheck all of these A1, B1, just so that we don't accidentally set up something that we don't need. And let's take a little tour of the software. You can see there are 3 hardware inputs and 2 virtual inputs, the VAIO and the aux input. Let's set up Windows Sound to use Voicemeeter. Come down to the speaker in your system tray, right-click, and choose Open Sound Settings. This will open up the Windows 10 settings. What we need to do is choose an output device. We're going to choose our Voicemeeter input. Now, all of your Windows programs automatically send the sound over to Voicemeeter. And in the Voicemeeter app, you'll start to see this channel operate when you hear system sounds. Now, right now, all of your system sounds that come in are going nowhere. We need to tell Voicemeeter where to send the sounds. That's what these A1 and B1 buttons do. They relate to these hardware outputs. And our first hardware output, A1, is set to the speakers. So by choosing this, all of my system sounds will now go to the speakers. Let's go back to the sound settings. The next thing we need to do is choose a default input device. Now, normally this would be set up for your microphone, and you can see the microphone is moving right now on my MacBook. But what I want to do is change it, and I'm going to choose the aux output. Now, as you can see, the microphone is no longer moving because it's not recording the microphone, it's recording the aux output from Voicemeeter. So how do I add my microphone? Again, open up Voicemeeter, and this time we're going to add a hardware input. This time we want to add our microphone back. And you can see here, WDM, internal microphone. And as I talk, you can see the microphone moving here. It's not moving in the monitor in Windows System Sounds. So to do this, we need to tell Voicemeeter to take the audio from the microphone and send it to the aux output, which is B2. After checking this box, you can see that the microphone starts moving again. This shows us that what's coming in to the microphone on the first hardware input comes out on B2. You can also see B2 moving up and down as I speak. Let's try to keep this straight. Right-click where you see fader gain. Try to click close to the bottom. A blank space will open up. This lets us type in a label for the input. We're going to label this one microphone. Next, let's label the B2 output. For this one, I call my B2 output mic/line. The reason it's not just microphone is sometimes I want to include other audio sources to send to my class or to send to my stream. And it's easiest to do it if I can send it all to this one input. So the way to think about it is anything that goes to B2 goes out over the voice chat system. This includes Discord, Zoom, Skype, and OBS. Next, let's look at the two virtual inputs. Again, we want to organize how things come into Voicemeeter. So let's click on the first one and let's call the B1 VAIO input system. Now let's call the B2 input voice communication. Separating these two allows us to accept voice communication from Discord or Zoom or anything else and send it somewhere. Now, that could be sending it to OBS to include in your live stream, or if you're doing a lecture, to include other speakers in your voice chat. But this is how we're going to take the voice chat input and direct it where we want it. Now be careful, the voice communication input and the mic line output are separate devices. We do not want to send the input from the voice communication to the output for the mic line. If we do that, it will cause a loop. Now it's time to open OBS. Since this is on a new system, OBS is opening for the first time. You're going to see this auto configuration wizard. What this will do is test to see how fast your connection is to find out what stream quality would be best for you to send. If you're going to be streaming using Twitch or YouTube, choose the Optimize for Streaming. If you're going to be recording videos, then choose the Optimize for Recording. However, today we're just going to use the virtual camera, so I will only be using the virtual camera. Next. And this will give us the recommended settings that we can just apply. And this is our OBS window. Now, you can see that as I'm talking, a microphone is picking up my sound, but this is not what I want. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into File, Settings. I'm going to come down to Audio, and I'm going to look at my audio devices here. As you can see, there are 2 desktop audio devices, and there are 5 microphone devices. Let's look back at Voicemeeter. On Voicemeeter, we have the 2 sides. We have the input side with the hardware inputs and the 2 virtual inputs. And then we have the output side with the master section down below. The input side matches to the desktop audio type. So when I choose desktop audio, it doesn't actually have to be your desktop audio. I can actually choose a different device, and that's what I'm going to do. The audio that comes in through voice communication will be from Discord or Skype or Zoom, for example. This one we want to have as a desktop audio. So what I'm going to do is in the global audio devices for desktop audio, I'm going to choose the Voicemeeter aux input. Now, again, input and output are separate. The desktop audios are inputs. The microphone and audios are outputs. So I'm going to change my output as well. And for the microphone, I'm going to choose the aux output. What this means is anything that goes through the B2 channel is going to be separated with the inputs on one meter and the outputs on another. Let's also add the system sounds to desktop audio too. For this one, we're going to choose the Voicemeeter VAIO input. Click OK, and you're going to see 3 audio meters appear in our audio mixer. We have desktop audio 2, and mic. Let's try to keep this straight. So to help us, we're going to rename these devices. First, let's rename the desktop audio by right-clicking, choose rename, and this one is our voice communications audio source. Next, we'll right-click on desktop audio 2, and this one we'll call our system. Finally, the mic aux input is almost right, but let's have it match our Voicemeeter exactly, and we'll change aux to line. None of this is really important. It just helps us keep things straight. What we want to make sure is that all of the sounds are going to the correct place. Again, our output device will be Voicemeeter input, and our input device will be the Voicemeeter aux output. Scroll down to the bottom of the screen and choose App, Volume, and Device Preferences. This lets us set the default audio device for different programs. Now, the default input device can stay as the aux output, so we don't need to change that. Right now, Skype is set to the default. This means that any audio coming in will go to Voicemeeter system. We want it to go to Voicemeeter communication for Skype. In the system settings, click down, and we're going to choose Voicemeeter aux input. This means that any sound coming from Skype or other voice communication programs will come in through the voice communication line, but you will have to set it here for each device. Sometimes in the program itself, you'll also have to change the settings, as the Windows settings are not always honored by the program. So in Skype, for example, I'm going to choose the aux input and aux output. So speakers are aux input. The microphone is aux output. Please be careful. Now let's test. So I'm going to click on test audio. Now over the speakers, I don't hear anything. That's because it's not routed right now. If we look at Voicemeeter, we can see that the bar is moving beside the voice communication, but since I didn't choose any of these switches, I don't have it outputting anywhere. If I choose B2, then the output from Skype goes right back into the microphone and right back out and right back in. Don't do that, it creates a loop. Instead, let's have it output through the speakers by clicking on A1. Now I can hear the Skype sound dialing over the speakers. For most situations though, that's probably not what you want to do. If you're going to be doing a Skype call or Discord chat, you don't want it playing over the speakers with the microphone on the same device. I want it to go through my headphones. So let's plug in my headphones. Now with my headphones plugged in, I'm going to go to A2 and I'm going to choose headphones. Now, anything that is A1 will go to the speakers on my computer. Anything that's A2 will go to my headphones. So let's listen to Skype on my headphones. It works, but it's a little bit loud. So let's take the volume slider on the headphones and lower it down to make it a better volume for this device. Now, I can also have it output through the speakers, and the speakers can be a different volume than the headphones. But really, I don't want any Discord or other chat coming out through the speakers to be picked up by my microphone. So I'm just going to use the headphones. One of the hidden features that's very useful is to double click on any of the settings and it will reset it back to the default. Let's review what we have so far. Our microphone comes in through the hardware input 1. The microphone is being sent to B2, which will be our mic line output. All of the communication from Discord, Skype, or other voice communication programs, I'm going to send to the aux input. Now let's look at another situation. How do I add sound or music or something else to my stream? One way to do it would just be to play something and have it come through the system menu like this. I've opened up a YouTube video in Chrome, and I have the audio coming from the YouTube video going into the system. The system right now is going out through the speakers. So if I wanted to listen to music, but I didn't want to send that music to my stream, for example, this is how I would do it. This might not be the best choice. I might want to choose something else, for example. Only this program to go to the stream. To do that, I need another input. The system is going through B1. I want something else. So for hardware input 2, this is where I'm going to add my virtual cable. I'm going to choose select input device, cable, output. Now I'm going to go back to the sound settings by right-clicking on the speaker and going back to open sound settings, go down to the app and volume preferences. Now I can see Google Chrome in this list. The programs will only appear in the list after you start playing some audio, so you have to play something first before you can change the settings. But the next time that you run the program, it will remember the settings and hopefully honor the settings as well. For this one, instead of having the default communication device, let's choose the virtual cable. So we're going to go to cable input here. That means any sound coming from Chrome is going to go to the virtual cable and not the Voicemeeter input, the system sounds. Let's play the music again and see what happens. If we open up Voicemeeter and look at the hardware input 2, we can see that it's moving around. The audio is coming in. However, I haven't chosen where to send that audio yet. If I want to listen to it on my computer, I could choose A1 and send it to my speakers. If I wanted to go through my headphones, but not my speakers, I'd choose A2. I want the music to go to my headphones and to the stream, but I don't want it to play over the speakers. So I'm going to choose A2 and B2. As you can see, the headphone output is moving now because the audio is coming from Chrome, going into the audio cable on hardware input 2, and then going out to the headphones. It is also at the same time going out to the mic line auxiliary output. Now, if the volume's too loud, I don't want to change the volume of the mic line output because then my microphone would also become quieter. Instead, let's double click to reset that, and we're going to lower the volume of the audio cable. What this will do is it will reduce the level of music while not changing the level of the microphone. If, for example, the people coming through my voice chat are a little bit quiet, I can increase the volume of the voice communication, and this will increase the volume going out. Now, every setup is a little bit different. Every microphone is different. How clear or how close you are to the microphone is different. You will have to play with this to find which settings are best for you, but try to keep it organized in your system. Let's rename the hardware input 2 to music. Now, for any music program, we can change the settings in the Windows sound settings to automatically go to the cable input. This means that all music programs will appear in that same channel. When we have a new program, a new video conferencing program, new music program, we want to make sure that the system sounds are set up correctly. Otherwise, it will just by default go into that system category, which will only play over your speakers. Let's go over the settings one more time so that we can understand the basic ideas with routing. In Voicemeeter Banana, on the left side, we have all of the inputs, the 3 hardware inputs and the 2 virtual inputs. The 3 hardware inputs, we've decided to put our microphone on the first one and our virtual audio cable on the second one. That still leaves a third one if we want to connect another device to our computer or if we have a second microphone that we want to add in. The 2 virtual inputs are the system default sounds as well as our voice communication software. And we have to change all of our voice communication software settings in order to use this second device. So we want our microphone and our music to both go out to B2, which is our mic line output. By default, we don't want the system sounds to also go out by B2. We want our system sounds to go out through our speakers and our voice communication to go out through our headphones. we can adjust the settings for each device appropriately. And that's how we can bring the audio from different audio sources into both OBS and other software. If you would like to have more detailed control over your Voicemeeter, one option is to install the Voicemeeter plugin for OBS. This will allow us to add more options from Voicemeeter directly into OBS. To download the files, click on Go to Download, and this will bring us to the OBS Voicemeeter plugin. Scroll down to the bottom and choose the OBS Voicemeeter 0.0.1.exe. Save the file, go back to your downloads folder, and with OBS closed, double-click on the OBS Voicemeeter 0.0.1.exe file. If you get this warning, that's just because the developer doesn't have a developer signature, which is required by Microsoft in order to dismiss this. People have tested it, it's safe. Click More Info and run anyway. Follow the prompts for the setup and finish. Now let's open OBS back. Inside OBS, we can do more with Voicemeeter now. So we're going to add another source. Click on the plus in the source, and we're going to choose Voicemeeter. Let's call this one Virtual Cable, just as an example. After we enter the name, the properties menu will appear. In here, we have 4 different settings. For the stage, we're going to choose Voicemeeter Main. This lets us choose any of the strips, which are the inputs, or buses, which are the outputs, to bring into OBS. For the speaker output, leave it as stereo. For OBS Channel 1 and OBS Channel 2, think of it more like left and right. Normally in Voicemeeter, the stripes go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. However, this plugin uses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since the virtual cable is a second input, we're going to add stripe 2. For each strip, there are 2 listings. The first listing will be the left channel. The second listing will be the right channel. So for OBS Channel 1, we're going to add number 2. And for OBS Channel 2, we're going to add number 3. After we've added those, click OK. Now you can see the meters in Voicemeeter and OBS both show that they're receiving music. The OBS plugin uses the Voicemeeter API, which allows it to get access to the music before any processing is done. What this means is any changes we make in Voicemeeter will not be reflected in OBS. For example, if I lower the audio in Voicemeeter, you can still see that the meter in OBS is very loud. This just gives us one more option to do mixing before we send it out. If I want to capture one of the A1, A2, A3, B1, or B2 outputs, I can also do that within this plugin. Just follow the same steps as before, except for the stage, choose the Voicemeeter output. Above each of the sliders for the hardware inputs is a square and 2 dials. The square has some different functions which you might not notice right away. Right-clicking on the square cycles through the different features from a 3D panel where you can move the sound from left side to right side, a color panel which will change the quality of the audio or add color to it, and an effects panel which does some really weird kind of vocalization effects. Probably not something you want to play with too much. For fun, sure. Otherwise, maybe not. Let me show you the settings on Voicemeeter Potato that I use. For color, I've moved mine up to the top corner, and if I reset it, for example, you can hear that my voice has a different quality. Play around with this by moving it around. You can increase or decrease the sound a little bit without complicated sliders. For me, I like it about there. But you can choose what's best for you and what's best for your voice. Okay, let's add a limiter to my microphone so that my voice never gets too loud. I'm going to right-click on the top of the meter here. You'll see the number 12 appear. That means that right now it's limited to plus 12 decibels. That's too loud. Most audio programs prefer to have the audio below 0. Let's set it to minus 6 decibels. You'll see that this yellow part appears at the top and will compress this down. The second thing we want to do is add a little bit of compression. Compression takes the loud sounds and the quiet sounds and brings them closer together. I'm using compression on this microphone as well, so that when I turn my head, the audio doesn't really change. Again, let's look at my Voicemeeter. In my Voicemeeter, I'm using a compression of 4. Now, again, you'll have to find out what's best for you. I've switched between using 2, but I've never gone above 4, really. For me, this seems to be the right level to get a good sound. And you can see that when I turn my head from side to side, the audio level doesn't change very much. Now let's reset it. With it at 0, if I'm talking directly into the microphone, there shouldn't really be too much of a difference. I might be a little bit quieter, but you can hear that as I turn my head from side to side, the sound will become quieter and quieter. This is because the quiet level of my voice is now changing a lot depending on whether I'm speaking to the microphone. With the microphone back at 4, I can move my head a lot and the level of my voice doesn't really change too much. This just gives me a little bit more freedom to be close to the microphone or far from the microphone and still keep the same level of voice. So what's the best way to do it? There isn't one. Play with it, see what works best for you. Start at maybe 2. See how that sounds. The second one over here is a noise gate. A gate turns off the microphone when the sound is below a certain level. As you can see, the microphone is always picking up sound, but only when I talk does it go into that higher green area. I'm going to be quiet for a second just so you can see how low it goes. That level is the background level. A noise gate can remove any sound that's below that level while you're not talking. So let me do that now. To set a noise gate, the best way to do is turn on your air conditioner, turn on your fan, anything else that would normally make sounds in your room, and then slowly turn up the gate and see what happens. In fact, for this microphone, because it is a laptop microphone that's not very good, I had to move it all the way up to 5 in order to block out any of the low-level sounds. But that means that when I stop talking, the sound drops off and goes to 0. So just ambient background sound is removed. Now, the compressor and the gate are only available on the hardware input channels, but that does mean that if I use the virtual cable, I also get access to those features. If, for example, you have teammates on Discord or other speakers with different levels of microphones or different quality of sound, that means you could compress the level of the audio for the speakers on your voice communication software by running it through the virtual cable instead of the aux input. And that's the last tip I have for using Voicemeeter with OBS. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave it in the comments below or contact me. I stream on Twitch as Nico Tosca, sometimes with my son who's doing his homework behind me. Have a great day.